Good morning. No. Good morning. Okay. I know we all have tears in our eyes now. That was very heartful. I just told Aiden, I'm out of breath. My gosh, am I out of shape? I told Aiden, he sat down, I said, man, I wish I would have gone first. Why'd you put me second? He made me cry. It's great to be here with you, and I'm glad we get to have this kind of setting where we can kind of talk maybe a little bit more heart to heart, and I want you to know, and I think you can feel that from Aiden, and I hope you can feel that from the company, that we care about you, that we're not just in it for the money and see the quick buck, but we're actually in it to help you to become better. And I hope you get that feeling when you're driving home today that, man, I have something big in my life here, you know. I was thinking, in fact, when Aiden was showing that video, there was a lot of great pictures in there, wasn't there? Do you notice that? There's incredible photography, and I just want to give a big hand to this guy right here who takes all those awesome photos. Sandra, you do an amazing job. He's become quite a good friend to us too, and he's promised me a mountain bike adventure here in England, so I'm going to take him up on that one of these days. But anyway, I was thinking while I was watching that video back to one of the first times that I came to England, and in fact, Aiden and I were talking about that on the drive up. And it's funny because when I got here the other day, lots of people came up and said, "Oh, you made it? You found your way? Great. We were worried about you. We thought you were going to get lost." And I'm not sure what kind of story he concocted. And anyway, you know, when Aiden arrived, I was waiting for him at the airport, and he arrived in London, and he said, "Okay, let's go get the car." And I said, "No, I already got the car." And he says, "You're going to drive?" I says, "Yeah, don't worry. We're here on an adventure. This is going to be fun. Trust me." So we had a good drive up. But anyway, I was watching this video, and it took me back to one of the first times that I came to England. And it was about 16 years ago, almost 17 years ago, because it was the year my son was born. Aiden reminded me. And so 17 years ago, I remember coming to a Success Day. And I bet if I asked how many were at that Success Day, there would be a few with their hands up. Let me see. Raise your hand. Stand up. Stand up if you're at that Success Day 17 years ago. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? So one of the things I was thinking about is what Dorn Parker mentioned yesterday about a man who actually came to England when there was no forever. It didn't exist here in the UK. And he had the courage enough to move from Arizona, where, you know, he was used to his life there, to come live here, where in some ways is very different, and had that courage to move his entire family over to start something that he wasn't really sure was going to be successful or not. And that man helped create what we have here today, the success that we're having here today. And unfortunately, he can't be here with us because many of you probably don't know and haven't heard, but he came down with cancer and passed away. And he was a dear friend to Aiden and I, and to a lot of the people who stood up. He stood for principles. He stood for doing things right. He stood for forever. And I think we owe a big round of applause to Dusty Green, which I hope he's here with us in spirit today. And I say that because Dusty and I were really good friends. And in fact, Dusty's father is Harold, and Harold goes way, way back with Rex. So, I'll give you a little family history here. And Rex and Harold met when they were 19, 20 years old, and had been friends since then. And Harold joined the company almost from the very beginning when we started in 1978, and was an integral part in creating Forever and what it is today. So Dusty and I had the unique experience of growing up together as children in Forever Living. And so we were very good friends, and got to go through and see the whole experience of the early days of Forever. And one of the things that we shared is that commonality of seeing Forever grow and watching the experiences. There's been a lot of people over the 36 years that have come and gone, as you can imagine. A lot of people that you meet. Some are still here, which is great, but a lot of people come and gone. And I've seen a lot over this time period. Some of you think I'm young, but that's because I've drank aloe my whole life. I'm actually, about 75 years old right now. At least I feel like it in experience, because I've seen a lot, and I've met a lot of people, and I've seen them go through their trials and errors. And so one of the things we wanted to do today is point out some of those important things to consider. Especially when you're new in the business, you don't have a lot of time, and you get going, and you're motivated by pure excitement and adrenaline, and everything seems to be going, it's going to always go that way. And then that stop sign comes. So we want you to think not just short term, but there's a reason why we call it Forever. There's a reason for that, because we want this company to last, And there's a lot of companies in this industry that don't last. A lot of them. They come and go, and they're short-term thinking. And so I want you to know that in Forever, we're thinking about legacy. We're thinking about future generations. We don't want this thing to stop. We want it to keep going. We believe in it, not just from a money perspective, not just from a product perspective, but we believe that it truly changes people's lives. It's got power to it. And when you join Forever and you start to see that vision and you start to share it, you're sharing that power with others, and there's a responsibility with that. And you need to understand that, and you need to respect it, and you need to make sure that it's going in the right direction. So I think it's interesting that Aiden got to do all the touch and feely things, and then he said to me, "You do the company policy thing." I don't know. There was a reason why we did the personality test here recently, and he said to me, "You're black and white. Do the company policy thing." So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I get to talk about the company policy. Isn't that exciting? Are you excited about that? All right. So let's chat a little bit about the company policy. And I've written some notes down here to make sure I don't forget. If we can go to the next slide. So, John, I'm glad John is emceeing this. And John and I have known each other for a long time, and we get great opportunities to chat about the business and strategy, and I love talking to, he's a numbers man, and I like numbers too, and I like talking about strategical things of the marketing plan. And one of the things John says often is there's three important positions. I mean, all the positions are important in Forever, but there's three key pen levels. That is supervisor, manager, and diamond manager. And you can probably understand there's key points when you meet, when you become a supervisor, there's a commitment there. There's a commitment level. And then when you get to manager, which a lot of you are new managers within the year here, and that is a pivotal moment in your journey in forever. And just to show you that there's a long journey here, there's a long road you go. The next one you're going to be looking for and shooting for is diamond manager. And the only thing that I would add here is John used to talk about this a while ago, but now that we've added the Eagle Manager program, I want to add into this that not only is it manager or diamond manager, but you got to put that eagle into it also, right? That you got to be focused on, once you hit manager, now I need to become an eagle manager. Once I hit each level, senior, soaring, and on up to diamond, then I become a diamond eagle, right? As you're working towards each new level, make sure you're strategically putting yourself in a place that you're going to be able to reach that eagle manager status at that pen level. That is going to guarantee you stability. That's going to guarantee you that your future is going to continue, your business is going to continue on forever. So when we look at these key points here, most of you new managers, this is a very important part of your journey. This is a point where, you know, you could go this way or that way. And that's why we wanted to talk to you today about some important things to think about and to consider, and to start trying to get yourself into more of a long-term strategical thinking process. You know, to take that hobby mentality and turn it into, this can be a big business mentality. That I can have a big business with this. I can keep this going on and pass it on to my future generations. This is the type of business that's going to last forever. So let's go to the next slide. So we have company policies, and you know, this is an exciting business. It's built on enthusiasm. It's built on motivation. It's built on, you know, getting people excited about doing certain things. But there is the black and white that we have to consider also. And when we look at sometimes the company policy, all we hear is blah, 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 right? And, you know, we don't want the black and white. We don't want to read between the lines. But it's important to consider what you're doing, and that you're doing it right, and that you're making sure that you're following the correct principles that others have followed and have succeeded with. And I think that's extremely important that you understand. We get to see a lot of different situations. You know, a lot of people will come and say, well, what about this? Or I didn't do that. Can you help me with that? And you can imagine when there's millions of people around the world that are distributors, you know, we can't spend all of our time considering exceptions. And, oh, well, you forgot to do your 4 cases. We'll allow you to get your bonus this month, or whatever the case may be. Can't happen, you know. So you have to know the rules. You got to play the game with the rules. And so it's important that you know the company policies, especially as a manager and beyond, because that's what you're going to be teaching those people that come into your group and that you want to help become successful. And if they're not well informed, then guess what? There's going to be an issue down the road. And I just wanted to mention that the company policies are what we consider the forever Bible. That's how important we consider the company policies. And we always say when we're confronted with a situation, we always say, well, what does the company policy say? Let's go back to it. Let's be directed by what the company policy says. And, you know, the company policy was created a long time ago. Does anyone remember James Callahan as your prime minister? Yeah? That's quite a while ago, wasn't it? That's when the company policy was created, during his tenure. So that's going way back, and some of you might be thinking, wow, that's a long time. Maybe the company policy needs to be changed and looked at. But I always say, if you get the principles correct, they never change. Natural laws never change. And so when you look at like a correct principle, like being honest, you're either honest or you're not. It's kind of like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. There's no in between, right? Well, you're either honest or you're not. Does that make sense? So you can't be right in the middle, that sometimes I'm honest and sometimes I'm not. Okay? So when you have a correct principle and you're following those natural laws, they don't change. Never change. Doesn't matter how long the time goes by. And that's how I consider company policy, is they follow correct principles and they don't change. So that's why you'd never see a major change to the company policy, because it's proven. It follows correct principles. And when you understand that, that black and white that's there has withstood the test of time, and that's going to help me build a stable business that's going to continue on in the future, that's why I'm going to follow it. That's why it's important to me. All right, the next one. So, of course, the company policy was created by our founder, Mr. Gregg Maughan. And there was a lot of time and effort and thought put into it. And sure, over time, over 36 years now, we've had to tweak some policies here and there. But I guarantee the core principles of the policy are exactly the same as they were when the company started. And so I think we owe a lot of gratitude to this man for putting that time and effort and concern into your future. Let's give him a big round of applause, Mr. Gregg Maughan. By the way, I spoke with him the other day, and he wanted me to tell you hello and thank you and congratulations to you. So go to the next one. I love this one. This is, by the way, Nick. Does anyone know who Nick is? Show if you know who Nick is. Well, you know Nick. He threw this one in there, and I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, I guess the point of this slide is that I just wanted you to know this isn't my first rodeo, as we say in Arizona. How many have been to Arizona? Just a few of you. I hope we get more of you to come and visit my home in Arizona. But Arizona's full of cowboys. So just to let you know that in my heart, I'm a cowboy. Did you guys know that? And so in Arizona, us cowboys say it's not my first rodeo. It's not my first horse I've ridden, okay? And I've been around a little bit. And so what I wanted to share with you today is some of the things that I've seen, some good things and some mistakes that distributors have made in the past that I hope you can avoid, or that you can follow the good things to make sure that you avoid those pitfalls and you're able to be on that right road to success. Next one. So number one is read and understand the policy. Read and understand the policy. Now, that seems like a big feat, doesn't it? A big challenge, because there's a lot in there. And I can guarantee you there's situations that are presented until today that I still have to go back and look at, what does it exactly say at that point? But make sure you understand what's in the policies, and especially those areas of interest that you have. Make sure you understand if it's an incentive, if it's chairman's bonus, if it's earned incentive, if it's Eagle Manager Program, whatever the case may be, make sure you understand what those requirements are, inside and out, and that you're following it. Because all too often, we are confronted with a distributor at the very last moment saying, I didn't realize that I had to do that. I didn't realize I had to have new non-manager cases, and that meant within the year, or that I had to be active every month during the contest period. Seems like a little thing right now, but trust me, when it's the last day of the requirement period and you're trying to qualify and you didn't do it, it's a big thing at that moment. We rarely do exceptions in forever. We rarely do exceptions in forever. You have to take on the responsibility yourself to understand this is my business. I can't blame anyone else but myself for not understanding and knowing what I needed to do. Does that make sense? So make sure you understand what you're doing. Go to the next one. As I said earlier, the company policies are built on the correct principles. And we've seen this over and over and over again throughout the history of forever, that when people follow the company policies and do what the guidelines are, they are on the right path to being successful in the business. When they start to try to do shortcuts and try to cut out the company policies or go against them, that's when they start to veer off and start to have issues and problems, and life gets rough for them. So let's make sure that we understand the company policies, that we follow the correct principles that never change, that will allow you to become successful. And I want to veer off here of the company policies a little bit, because one of the things I see with a few distributors around the world is they get caught up. They start earning money so quickly, and it builds, their business has so much momentum that all of a sudden they realize, wow, I have all this money coming in, and it seems like that money's going to continue to come in forever. You know, when someone gets to that 10,000 pound a month stage, they think that's guaranteed forever. Every month that's going to be the same income. And then all of a sudden, somewhere down the line, that 10,000 pounds goes to 5,000 pounds. Now, if you go out and you buy a big fancy house and you buy a big fancy car and you're getting big loans to do this, and all of a sudden you had 10,000 and you went to 5,000, what happens? Do you see what I mean between short-term thinking and long-term thinking? And trust me, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the world of forever here. I see it all the time. I see people that jump in, they go way too fast. And if there's one principle that I've learned from my father, I mean, there's many that I've learned, but if there's one that I've actually learned from him that has helped people over and over and over, and that is, do not get yourself into debt. These loans that you can go out and get, the banks aren't being nice to you. They don't like you. They're not trying to help you, right? So these loans that people go out and get and say, oh, I'm going to go get this fancy car and got this huge loan or a house or whatever the case may be, I promise you, the more debt you get into, the more problems you're going to have in the future. You want to have a goal of being debt-free. This company was built on the principle of being debt-free. Do you understand that? We don't go buy a new office building and get a loan from the bank. We wait till we have enough cash to go buy the office building. That's how Rex built this business. We don't buy Aloe Vera of America with a bank loan. Does that make sense? So we go back to the old-fashioned way of save your money. I think we forgot sometimes in our society these days that, oh yeah, maybe we should be putting a little bit away for the future. Maybe we should be worried about what's going to be happening down the road and make sure that we have enough. I tell you this as a friend. make sure you have in your mindset, I want to become debt-free. I don't want to be owned by the bank. I don't want to have them as my boss in the future. Another big one that I've seen. I want you to learn. You remember how our keystone habit is to smile? I want you to learn to smile when you pay your tax bill. Does that sound funny? Smile when you pay your tax bill. I have found way too many distributors who trying to take the shortcuts. I don't want to pay that much tax. I'm going to get into this scheme. I'm going to move to this country. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that to cut my tax bill. And every single one of them have spent more time, more effort, more heartache, and more money in the end. Does that make sense? There is a principle in life, and that is you're going to pay tax. You make money, you pay tax. Period. So don't get caught up in what can I do to reduce my tax liability, because I guarantee you it will only bring heartache. Now, sure, can you get a good accountant, make sure you follow the rules and get deductions and whatever the case may be. I'm not saying pay as much tax as you need to. I'm just saying make sure you follow the rules and smile when you pay your tax bill. Why? Because that means you're making money. And go on and spend the money that you have and take care of it and make sure you plan for your future, but smile when you pay that tax bill, because otherwise it can bring you a lot of heartache. Shortcuts. There's a few people out there in the forever world that think that it's easier and it's going to be faster to take shortcuts and try to go around the company policy to become successful. And we've seen this many times in the history of forever, that it never ever works. The shortcuts don't work. And as I said, this is a viable business that you're building. And when you build a business, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, you can't just all of a sudden have thousands of people in your downline building a successful business which is helping you be successful. It takes time and effort. So realize that taking the shortcut route isn't always the best route. In fact, it's not the best route, and it's going to lead you down the wrong road. Now, what are some of the shortcuts and pitfalls in shortcuts? One of them is, a big one, is buying into positions. Worrying about what pen level you're at. And in the history of forever, we had a lot of concerns about that in the past. That there was too many people trying to, I want to be manager, 120 cases, bam, I'm manager. No group. So big deal, they're walking around with a manager pin, but they have no manager group. They don't have an income of a manager to follow the pin. Does that make sense? Make sure what pin you're wearing, you have the business to follow it. That's what we want. That's the principle of the policy. The policy may say 120 case credits in 2 consecutive months makes you a manager. But within the lines of the policy there is make sure you have people that each one is buying a little bit. That creates this volume of 120 cases to make you manager. Because what happens the following month? If you just buy the 120, you get nothing. What? How much is 18% on zero? Zero, right? So you got to have the volume to make sure that you make the money. So make sure when you get a pin that the business follows. And that was one of the big reasons why we created the Eagle Manager Program. Because the Eagle Manager Program teaches you the correct principles of what you need to have to be at that level. So if you're a senior manager, you should have 1 Eagle Manager in your downline. When you're a soaring, you should have 3, and so forth. Does that make sense? So when you're building through the marketing plan, you become manager. That's why I say, next step, don't worry about senior. focus on being an eagle manager. Because when you do that, you're going to naturally start to develop someone in your downline who's going to become manager. Someone else is then going to be building, and they're going to become manager, and then you're going to be a senior manager. Now what are you going to be focused on? One of those two managers I have, help them develop into an eagle manager business. And as I do that, step by step, each time I get a new pin, I should be close to that eagle manager level at that pin level. And that your business is going to grow with that eagle manager status. So make sure that you're not focused on what pin you're wearing. You're focused on the business that's behind it. The other thing that we have a lot of problems with, and we'll talk about that, but that is selling products at a discount on internet. eBay, Yahoo, whatever it may be. This is a huge issue that the company's dealing with, and I can assure you that we're dealing with it. And it explicitly says in the company policy what? Who's read it? What does it say? Just yell it out. Don't do it. It's against company policy. So I can assure you that if you are caught, you will be terminated. Whacked. Done. Okay? Now, policing that's been difficult in the past. And all I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to get into specifics, but all I'm going to tell you is that the company is now in a direction of going to be able to police that much better in the future. So if you know someone out there that's involved in that, I would definitely encourage you to go talk to them and make sure that they change their habits, because that is going to be stopped in the future. And that only hurts our business. It hurts you and I, both. So if you know someone that's involved in that, I would encourage you to go talk to Bob or one of the staff members, and let's take care of it. Let's get it right, because that doesn't help any of us, okay? Because that just leads back to the buy-ins. That leads back to buying for a pin level, buying for chairman's bonus, whatever it is. We're not stupid, right? We understand what's going on, and we're going to put a stop to it, because that hurts my business. It hurts your business. And we're not going to put up with it. Okay? We're building for long term. We're not building just to sell products today. So I hope that that message is clear. The other thing that I find interesting is we have a few issues of poaching and people signing up under different sponsors. That's unacceptable. And that's against company policy. And again, that hurts my business and your business. So again, if you are aware of people that are encouraging that, of whatever scheme they come up with of how they're going to, put grandma under so-and-so and work under their name, or whatever the case may be, that is a terminable offense, and you'll lose your business and your future and forever for doing that. Okay? Company policy is a serious issue for me, because it's my future too. It's my livelihood. Many of you have come up to me and said, this business is my livelihood. Well, hello, it's mine too. Okay? So I care about it as much as you do. And I value it at the most. All right, go to the next one. So basically, we're talking about building a business that will last forever, building a legacy. And as Aiden went around the room and asked you, why are you doing this? What's your purpose? And why do you want to put all this time and effort in? I really hope that you're thinking more long term. You're not just thinking about that next car you want, and that's great. Excuse me, I love cars, and I like living in the house that I live in, and that's all due to hard work and effort, and it's great to have those things. But as John said, you get to that point where you have to figure out what's going to feed your heart versus what's going to feed your wallet. And I hope that as you're at that manager level, you may not be at that transitional point yet, but you're going to get there. And you might as well start thinking about it now. You might as well make that transition instead of waiting for it. And so I hope that through knowing the company policies, knowing that these are correct principles, you know, as a child, you hate your parents saying, no, don't do that, you got to do this and all that. But when you become child into a parent, you realize you want the best for that child, right? And that's why you say, no, do this, don't do that, because you know now, you have the wisdom now to give to them because you want them to have the very best. I'm sorry that I had to say, no, don't do this, don't do that, but I care about you. And I have maybe a little bit more wisdom than most of you because I've seen and I've experienced this over a long period of time, and I don't want you to fall into those traps. And I don't want you to go down that wrong route. You can be what you want to be in forever. You can be great and you can be really bad. And we've had both. And I want you to be great. Not just great in making a lot of money. That's awesome, and I want that for you. But I want you to become the person that you've always dreamed of. I want you to be that person that you envision in your mind and your soul and your heart. And that's the opportunity you have with Forever. Thank you all. Love you. Keep it going.